Nerlens and some of the games tonight with Derek Bodner, our Sixers insider, LibertyBallers.com, 97.3 ESPN.com, and at Derek Bodner, NBA. As Nerlens has been a guy, if you've been watching this team over the last month or so, has really looked like he seems more polished, Derek.
Yeah, no, he's certainly come along. I mean, you look at his numbers from the All-Star break, or really from the beginning of February on. I think his hot streak started a little bit before All-Star break. But since the All-Star break, he's averaging 12 points, nine rebounds. He's shooting 75% from the free throw line during that time. And that, to me, is one of the keys, because when he's missing his foul shots, I think it limits his aggression a little bit. I think he's worried attacking the defense because he doesn't have confidence that when he gets fouled, he's going to be able to convert. And for him to be going mid-50s earlier in the season, he's up around 60% now. And like I said, he's been shooting 75% from the line. I think that's probably, you look at what's going to carry on long term. He might not, continue. He might regress a little bit offensively. He might hit a patch where he struggles again. But that effectiveness from the line, I think, is it's what they spent all year last year working towards, and to be starting to show some tangible results for that, I think, is very good. And his overall offensive game, like you said, has looked very good of late as well.
Yeah, he seems like he's playing with more confidence on that ball. Now, I don't think anybody is mistaking this guy for a 20-point-a-game scorer, but, he seems like he's starting to become the guy that we hope he can possibly be more consistently. Maybe a guy who scores 14 points, grabs 10 rebounds, blocks a shot or two shots. He's up to almost 2.5 over the last 10 or so, and he just seems like a guy that maybe is starting to get it, and maybe a guy that his ceiling on offense might be higher than maybe the doubters thought.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like you said, you're not asking him to do a whole lot. But with his quickness, and he's really got some decent touch, oddly, with his left hand. A lot of times we call that the weak hand because he is a right-handed person. But he seems like he's more comfortable with his touch with his left hand. He's a little softer to follow up with his left hand. So his ability to face up and take guys off the dribble and really use that athleticism advantage that he has, if he can just become a little bit of a threat from the perimeter, like you said, you're not going to run an offense through him, but he can contribute in the right circumstances. And I think, between the foul shooting, between hitting his mid-range jump shot, the game's certainly coming together for him quite a bit.
How about the other night, your boy Jay Rich going for 29? He hit the fountain of youth over there, giving us all old guys a little bit of feeling there. What is his future? I mean, what do you anticipate the Sixers doing with him? I mean, is he a guy that they not that they're going to get anything special for him or anything, but what is the future for Jason? He obviously doesn't fit in the long-term plans here.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a free agent coming up here, and I think that's really where this story becomes great. I think there was real doubt whether he would ever play this year. And if he goes into next season as a free agent and he hasn't played in over 2 years, there's no certainty that he's back from his injury and that his rehab's complete, then it might be hard for him to really get work. But for him to come back now with, these last month and a half, 2 months of the season, and not only show that he can play, but, I mean, he's showing like he still has some offensive game left in him. Whether or not he's with the Sixers, I'm not entirely sure. I think they like his presence in the locker room. A lot of people talk about there's no veterans on this team, but I think if you look at Jason Richardson and Luke Balamute, there are two great examples for people to learn from, and really guys in the locker room who are as good of locker room leaders, not necessarily leaders because they're not vocal, but locker room examples as you could hope for. So I think there might be a spot for him. There might be some other team, a playoff team maybe, who could really use his shooting for a limited role off the bench, who maybe, he might want to go to and try to win. But I don't think it's impossible that he comes back. But really, to me, the story is that he's a guy who worked hard, suffered as many setbacks as you can, and now looks like he's in a position where he's going to be in the NBA next year, and I think that's great.
Yeah, pretty cool. Derek Bodner, at Derek Bodner NBA. Derek, obviously, the Michael Carter-Williams trade really dominated, but since that time, are there guys, I think it's given other guys an opportunity to even more so show what they can do. Have you been impressed by some guys since that deal that really stood out, after the trade of Michael Carter-Williams?
Well, I mean, I think the place you naturally go to is a point guard spot with Isaiah Canaan, who they got on at the trading deadline, and Ish Smith, who they claimed off of waivers. And both of them are very, very different point guards than what they do. Canaan, he was 8 for 13 from three-point range the other night. Really kept them in their game with his shooting. Doesn't do a whole lot creating off the dribble, creating for his teammates. Isn't much of a setup guy. I think it would be really interesting to play him next to a big point guard, play him off the ball a little bit, and bring him off of some screens and really let him play in that kind of role. They went from having all big point guards to no big point guards right now, so they can't really do that all that much. But I think he's a guy who could have a role on a team just because of his shooting. I don't think he's a starting point guard because I don't think his defensive playmaking is up to par. But I think he's a guy who could have a role, and it's been interesting watching the offense with shooting from that position. And Ish Smith is another guy. He's the type of guy that he looks great while he's at the first part of the play, where he's really using his speed and his quickness and ball handling to really create off the dribble and get in the lane. And he looks great up until the point where he has to throw the ball towards the basket because he really struggles to convert from the perimeter and lane against traffic. But just his ability to consistently get in the lane, I think, has really opened things up for guys like Nerlens and some of the shooters, because when he gets in the lane, he's really looking to pass. So whether or not he's a long-term player for the team, I think his finishing and shooting might be a fatal flaw, sort of his Achilles heel. But I think it shows what they could really use from that position and what a player with his kind of ability to get in the lane, but who maybe has a little more offensive skill can bring to the team.
All right, Derek, obviously Sixers, Utah tonight. Are there other games that you will have your eye on for the Sixers draft status?
Oh, there's obviously they have the Lakers pick, top 5 protected, the Heat pick, top 10, and the OKC pick, which is top 18. I think the Oklahoma City pick is almost guaranteed to come over at some point. They're currently 8 teams. They're chasing Washington, who is, I think, a half game ahead of them. But it seems like that's almost an eventuality. Washington plays Miami tonight. That's a big game to watch because, the Miami pick. Right now, I kind of want Miami to lose. They're at 16th. They can go back all the way to 11th or 12th and still have, I think it's a 97% chance the Sixers get it if they end up 11. So I'm kind of hoping Miami stumbles a little bit, allows teams like Brooklyn, Charlotte, and Indy to pass them. So really all of those teams that I just mentioned are teams you're going to want to watch. And then with the Lakers, they have to win a couple games here. They are 3 games behind Orlando for the 5th worst record. And then they're 5 or 6 games behind Denver and Sacramento. So Sacramento plays Orlando tonight, and that's going to be a big game that you're going to want to watch as well because you're hoping Orlando loses that one and Lakers play the Grizzlies. Don't see much chance the Lakers win that one, but I guess we can all hope.
You sounded almost excited when I asked you that about all these different games going on and how they can impact around the league. Sixers and Jazz tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. Follow at Derek Bodner, NBA, and check out LibertyBallers.com. The latest mailbag is up as well from Derek. Derek, always a pleasure, buddy. Enjoy the game.
Thank you.
All right.